Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Fist, watching the viewscreen display the approaching human fleet. His forearms crossed behind his back in the traditional Zelothy posture of supreme confidence. Around him, his bridge crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency, their scaled fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that controlled the most advanced warship in known space. The Dominion's Fist was a marvel of engineering that had taken the Zelothy Empire 3 centuries to perfect. At 12 kilometers long and 4 kilometers wide, it housed enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Its hull gleamed with adaptive armor that could shift molecular structure to absorb different types of energy weapons. Massive plasma cannons lined its sides like the spines of some ancient beast, each one capable of vaporizing a city. "Sir, the human vessels are maintaining their approach vector," reported Lieutenant Kexthor from the tactical station. "They appear to be smaller than our intelligence suggested." Vextar's mandibles clicked in what his species considered amusement. The humans had requested this meeting in neutral space, claiming they wanted to discuss territorial boundaries. The Galactic Council had been buzzing about these newcomers for months, ever since they had emerged from their small corner of the galaxy and begun expanding outward. "Display the human fleet composition," Vextar ordered. The main screen shifted to show a tactical overview. 7 human ships hung in space roughly 50,000 kilometers away. The largest appeared to be barely 3 kilometers long, a third the size of even the smallest Zelothy cruiser. Their hulls looked primitive, constructed from what appeared to be simple metal alloys rather than the exotic materials that composed Zelothy warships. "Pathetic," muttered Commander Yexval from the weapons station. "Look at those crude designs. No energy shielding visible, no adaptive armor plating. They look like they were assembled in a scrapyard." The bridge crew shared what passed for laughter among the Zelothy, a series of rapid clicking sounds. Vextar allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. When the Galactic Council had warned him about human technological capabilities, he had expected something more impressive. These vessels looked like toys compared to the engineering marvels of the Zelothy fleet. "Open a communication channel," Vextar commanded. The viewscreen flickered and resolved into the image of a human male wearing what appeared to be a dark blue uniform. The human looked remarkably young by galactic standards, with smooth skin and alert eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Behind him, Vextar could see what appeared to be the bridge of the lead human vessel. It looked surprisingly cramped and utilitarian compared to the spacious, ornately decorated command center of the Dominion's Fist. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Zelothy Imperial Navy," he announced, his translation device converting his words into the human language. "You requested this meeting. State your business." The human smiled, an expression that Vextar's cultural database identified as potentially threatening among their species. "Admiral Vextar, I'm Captain Saracen of the Terran Defense Force. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We understand that our expansion into this sector has raised some concerns among the established powers." Vextar's eyes narrowed. The human spoke with a confidence that seemed entirely out of place given the obvious disparity between their fleets. Behind Captain Chen, he could see other humans moving about their primitive bridge, apparently unconcerned by the fact that they were facing the most powerful battle group in Zelothy space. "Your expansion has indeed raised concerns," Vextar replied. "The Zelothy Empire has controlled this sector for over 2,000 years. We did not grant permission for your species to establish colonies here." Captain Chen's expression remained pleasant but firm. "With respect, Admiral, we weren't aware that permission was required. Our understanding is that interstellar space belongs to no single species. We've established our colonies on uninhabited worlds, following all established Galactic Council protocols." The audacity of this response sent ripples of indignation through the Zelothy bridge crew. Commander Yexval hissed softly, his scales shifting to a deeper shade of red that indicated rising anger. The tactical officer's claws extended involuntarily, scraping against his console. Vextar raised one of his 4 hands, signaling for calm. He had not risen to the rank of admiral by allowing emotion to cloud his judgment. Still, the human's casual dismissal of Zelothy authority was more than insulting, it was dangerous. Other species would be watching this exchange. If he allowed humans to establish themselves in Zelothy space without consequence, it would be seen as weakness. "Captain Chen," he said, his voice taking on the formal tone that preceded an ultimatum, "perhaps you are not fully aware of the situation. This sector falls within the Zelothy sphere of influence. Your presence here threatens the stability that we have maintained for millennia." The human captain tilted her head slightly, another gesture that Vexstar's database suggested indicated curiosity rather than submission. I'm sorry, Admiral, but I'm not sure I understand. Are you claiming sovereignty over empty space and uninhabited worlds? I am stating a fact recognized by every major power in this galaxy, Vexstar replied. The Zelathi Empire maintains order in this region. Your unauthorized expansion disrupts that order. Captain Chen was quiet for a moment, and Vexstar could see her eyes moving as she apparently consulted with someone off-screen. When she looked back at him, her expression had grown more serious. Admiral, I think there may be a fundamental misunderstanding here. Humanity doesn't recognize claims of sovereignty over uninhabited space. We believe all species have the right to expand and establish themselves on worlds that can support them, as long as they don't interfere with existing populations. The bridge of the Dominion's fist fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. Vexstar felt his own scales shifting color as the full implication of the human's words sank in. They weren't just ignoring Zelathi authority, they were openly rejecting it. Captain, he said slowly, you do realize that you are currently outnumbered and outgunned by a considerable margin? Your 7 vessels against our battle group of 43 ships, including the most powerful dreadnought in known space. For the first time since the conversation began, Captain Chen's smile widened. It was not, Vexstar realized, an expression of fear or submission. If anything, she looked almost amused. Admiral, I appreciate you pointing that out, she said. But, I think you might be operating under some misconceptions about human capabilities. Before we continue this discussion, would you be interested in a demonstration? Commander Yexbal leaned forward in his chair. Sir, recommend we maintain combat readiness. Human behavior patterns are proving unpredictable. Vexstar considered this. The human's confidence was either the result of ignorance or knowledge that he lacked. Given their apparent technological inferiority, ignorance seemed most likely. Still, something about Captain Chen's demeanor suggested otherwise. What kind of demonstration? He asked. Captain Chen consulted something outside the camera's view, then looked back. We have a small asteroid approximately 1 million kilometers from here. Nothing valuable, just a chunk of rock about 2 kilometers across. Would you like to see how human weapons perform against such a target? Vexstar's mandibles clicked again. A weapons demonstration would indeed be enlightening. He was curious to see what these primitive-looking vessels could accomplish. Very well. Proceed with your demonstration. The communication screen shifted to show the tactical display. A small icon representing the asteroid appeared at the edge of the sensor range. Vexstar watched as one of the human ships, a vessel that looked like little more than a metal tube with engines attached, began moving toward the target. Sir, reported the sensor operator, human vessel designated Contact 7 is approaching the asteroid. I'm detecting some kind of energy buildup, but the signature is unusual. Vexstar studied the readouts. The human ship had stopped about 10,000 kilometers from the asteroid and appeared to be charging some kind of weapon system. The energy readings were indeed strange, unlike anything in the Zelathi database of known weapon types. Whatever they're planning, Commander Yexval said with a dismissive gesture, it cannot be more impressive than our plasma lance batteries. That asteroid would require a sustained bombardment of at least 30 minutes to completely destroy. The human ship fired. The effect was instantaneous and completely unexpected. Instead of the bright energy beam or projectile that Vexstar had anticipated, there was simply nothing. No visible discharge, no energy signature that his sensors could identify. For a moment, it appeared as though the human vessel had done nothing at all. Then, the asteroid ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not shattered or vaporized or blown apart. One moment it was there, a solid chunk of rock and metal that had probably been orbiting its star since the system formed billions of years ago. The next moment, there was empty space. The bridge of the Dominion's fist erupted in confused chatter as officers tried to make sense of their sensor readings. The tactical display showed nothing where the asteroid had been, no debris field, no energy signature, no trace that it had ever existed. Report! Vexstar snapped. The sensor operator's voice was shaky. Sir, I'm showing complete target elimination. No debris, no energy dispersion. The asteroid appears to have been erased. Vexstar stared at the empty section of space where a 2-kilometer asteroid had been moments before. In all his years of military service, through dozens of battles and hundreds of weapons tests, he had never seen anything like it. The most powerful weapons in the Zealothi arsenal could reduce an asteroid to rubble, but this was something else entirely. Captain Chen's voice came through the communication system, perfectly calm. I hope that clarifies our position somewhat, Admiral. Now, shall we discuss those territorial boundaries? Admiral Vextar stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been, his 4 hearts beating irregularly as he tried to process what he had just witnessed. Around him, the bridge crew of the Dominion's Fist worked frantically at their stations, running diagnostic after diagnostic in hopes of finding some explanation for the impossible. Sensor array status, he demanded. All systems functioning normally, sir, replied the sensor operator, her voice tight with confusion. I've run 3 complete diagnostics. Our equipment is working perfectly. Then, explain to me how a 2-kilometer asteroid simply disappeared. The tactical officer looked up from his console, his scales now a pale shade of green that indicated deep uncertainty. Sir, I'm detecting no weapon residue, no energy dispersion, no gravitational anomalies. Whatever the humans used, it left no trace that our sensors can identify. Commander Yexval stood and moved to the main tactical display, studying the readings with growing unease. This has to be some kind of trick. Perhaps they used a cloaking device to hide the debris field, or maybe they employed some form of transporter technology to move the asteroid. Run a full spectral analysis of the area, Vextar ordered. Search for any anomalies, any trace evidence of what happened. As his crew worked to solve the mystery, Vextar found himself studying the human ships more carefully. They still looked primitive, their hull design simple and utilitarian. But something about them had changed in his perception. The crude metal construction that had seemed like a sign of technological inferiority now appeared almost elegant in its simplicity. As if the humans had perfected their design so thoroughly that they no longer needed the complex systems that other species relied upon. Captain Chen's voice crackled over the communication system. Admiral, our sensors indicate you're conducting detailed scans of the demonstration area. Are you having trouble understanding what happened? Vextar forced his voice to remain steady. Your weapon appears to have some unusual characteristics. I am merely ensuring that our sensor data is accurate. Of course. While you're doing that, perhaps I should mention that what you just witnessed was a relatively minor example of human weapons technology. The ship that fired on the asteroid, the Prometheus, is actually one of our older destroyers. We brought it along primarily for escort duty. The implications of this statement hit the Zealothi bridge crew like a physical blow. If the complete erasure of a 2-kilometer asteroid was considered a minor example of human weapons technology, what were their major weapons capable of? Sir, whispered the communications officer, I'm picking up increased chatter from our own fleet. The other ships are requesting clarification on the human weapon signatures. Vextar realized that every vessel in his battle group had witnessed the demonstration. 43 ships full of Zealothi personnel were now questioning everything they thought they knew about human capabilities. Word would spread through the fleet within hours, and, from there to the rest of the Empire within days. He needed to regain control of the situation. Captain Chen, he said, putting authority back into his voice, impressive as your demonstration was, you are still facing the full might of the Zealothi Imperial Navy. One weapon does not make a fleet. You're absolutely right, Admiral. Captain Chan's image on the screen nodded agreeably. One weapon doesn't make a fleet. That's why we brought several different types for you to evaluate. Before Vextar could ask what she meant, his tactical officer spoke up in alarm. Sir! Human vessels are powering up additional weapon systems. Multiple energy signatures detected. The main screen shifted to show the tactical overview of both fleets. The 7 human ships were indeed activating various systems, but the energy readings made no sense. Some of the signatures were completely unknown to Zealothi science. Others seemed to indicate power levels that should have been impossible for vessels of their size. Human ship designated Contact 3 is targeting one of our outer perimeter vessels, reported the tactical officer. The Blade of Vengeance is requesting instructions. Vextar felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. The Blade of Vengeance was a heavy cruiser with some of the most advanced defensive systems in the Zealothi fleet. Its adaptive armor and shield arrays could withstand sustained bombardment from an entire enemy squadron. Tell them to maintain position but ready all defensive systems, he ordered. Then, to Captain Chen, What exactly are you planning to demonstrate now? Nothing too dramatic. We thought you might want to see how our defensive systems interact with Zelithy weapons technology. Our weapons? Vexstar's mandibles clicked in confusion. We have not fired anything. Captain Shen's smile became enigmatic. Not yet. But, we'd like to invite the Blade of Vengeance to fire on one of our ships. Full power, whatever they consider their most effective weapons. We'll use it as an opportunity to test our defensive capabilities. The bridge of the Dominion's fist fell completely silent. In over 2 millennia of warfare, no enemy had ever invited Zelithy forces to fire upon them. It was either the height of confidence or the height of madness. Commander Yexbal leaned close to Vexstar and spoke quietly. Sir, this could be an opportunity. If their defensive systems fail, we eliminate one of their vessels and demonstrate the superiority of Zelithy weapons. Vexstar considered this. The Blade of Vengeance carried plasma lance batteries capable of cutting through battle station armor. If the human ship's defenses failed, the resulting explosion would send a clear message about the consequences of challenging Zelithy authority. Very well, he said. But, I want to understand the rules of this engagement. What happens if your ship is destroyed? Then, you'll have demonstrated the superiority of your weapons technology, and we'll reconsider our position in this sector, Captain Chen replied without hesitation. But, I should warn you, no human ship has ever been destroyed in combat. Never? Commander Yexbal couldn't hide his skepticism. Not once. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years, Admiral. Against each other, against environmental hazards, against various threats we've encountered in our expansion. Human vessels are built to survive. The tactical officer looked up from his console. Sir, the Blade of Vengeance reports ready to fire on your command. They're targeting the human vessel designated Contact 5. Vexstar studied the human ship in question. It was even smaller than the others, perhaps 800 meters long and built like a simple metal box with engines. There was nothing about its design that suggested advanced defensive capabilities. Captain Chen, are you certain you want to proceed? Our plasma lance batteries are extremely powerful. We're ready when you are, Admiral. Vexstar took a deep breath. All ships, stand by. Blade of Vengeance, you are cleared to engage the human vessel with full weapons. The Zelithy cruiser fired immediately. 3 massive plasma lances streaked across space, each beam carrying enough energy to vaporize a small moon. The weapons were perfectly targeted, designed to strike the human ship from 3 different angles simultaneously to overwhelm any possible defensive systems. The plasma beams struck the human vessel and, simply, stopped. Not absorbed, not deflected, not dispersed. The energy beams hit what appeared to be empty space around the human ship and ceased to exist, as if they had never been fired at all. The human vessel sat unchanged in space, not even a scorch mark on its hull. Impossible, breathed the tactical officer. Sir, our weapons just disappeared. No energy reflection, no dispersion pattern. It's as if they were completely nullified. Captain Chen's voice came over the communication system, still perfectly calm. Thank you for the demonstration, Admiral. Our defensive systems performed within expected parameters. The Meridian reports no damage whatsoever. Vexstar stared at the human ship that had just shrugged off enough firepower to level a city. His mind raced through the implications. If human defensive systems could completely nullify Zelithy weapons, then everything the Empire thought it knew about military power was wrong. How? He asked quietly. How what, Admiral? How did you do that? Our weapons carried enough energy to destroy a battle station. Captain Chen paused, as if considering how much to reveal. Admiral, I think the fundamental issue here is that you're still thinking in terms of energy-based warfare. Plasma weapons, particle beams, fusion warheads, these are all technologies that humanity mastered and moved beyond several centuries ago. Moved beyond? Commander Yexbal interrupted. What could be more advanced than direct energy manipulation? Reality manipulation, Captain Chen said simply. Why throw energy at a problem when you can simply change the rules that govern the problem? The Zelithy bridge crew exchanged confused glances. Reality manipulation was a theoretical concept that appeared in some of the Empire's most advanced physics research, but it was considered impossible to implement practically. You're claiming that humans have developed technology that can alter fundamental physical laws? Vexstar asked. Not alter them, work with them in ways that most species haven't considered. Admiral, when your weapons fired on our ship, they encountered a field that convinced the universe that they had never been fired in the first place. The energy didn't go anywhere because, from the universe's perspective, it had never existed. Vexstar felt his legs grow weak. If the humans were telling the truth, they possessed technology so far beyond anything the Zelothy had developed that comparison was meaningless. It would be like comparing a stone knife to a fusion reactor. Sir, the communications officer said urgently, we're receiving messages from the other ships in our battle group. They're requesting immediate clarification on human capabilities and asking for new tactical assessments. The Admiral looked at his fleet disposition on the tactical screen. 43 ships that he had thought represented overwhelming superiority now seemed like toys arrayed against an incomprehensible force. If the humans could make weapons disappear and asteroids cease to exist, what else could they do? Captain Chen, he said slowly, what exactly is it that humanity wants from this meeting? The same thing we've wanted from the beginning, Admiral. A peaceful discussion about territorial boundaries and the establishment of diplomatic relations between our species. And, if we refuse? Captain Chen's expression became thoughtful. Admiral, in our experience, most conflicts arise from misunderstandings. You believe that your technological superiority gave you the right to dictate terms to humanity. We've demonstrated that your assumption about technological superiority was incorrect. Now we can have a real conversation between equals. Vexstar realized that the entire dynamic of the situation had shifted. The humans had not just demonstrated superior weapons, they had completely rewritten the rules of engagement. The question was no longer whether the Zelothy could force humanity to comply with their demands, but whether humanity would allow the Zelothy to maintain any presence in this sector at all. What are your terms? He asked. Captain Chen leaned back in her chair, and Admiral Vexstar noticed that her crew had remained remarkably calm throughout the entire exchange. While his own bridge buzzed with nervous energy and whispered conversations, the humans moved about their duties with an air of complete confidence. Our terms are quite reasonable, Admiral, Chen said. We propose a simple division of the sector. Humanity will maintain control over the systems we've already colonized, plus a buffer zone of uninhabited systems for future expansion. The Zelothy Empire can maintain control over their existing territories and establish trade routes. Commander Yexbal hissed softly, a sound of indignation. They want us to give up half the sector to accommodate their illegal expansion. Vexstar raised a hand for silence, but his own thoughts were racing. The human proposal was not unreasonable by Galactic Council standards, but it represented a fundamental shift in power dynamics. For 2,000 years, the Zelothy had dictated terms to other species from a position of absolute strength. Now they were being asked to negotiate as equals. And if the Zelothy Empire finds these terms unacceptable? Vexstar asked. Captain Chen's expression remained pleasant but firm. Then, we would be forced to defend our colonies using whatever means necessary. But, Admiral, I hope you understand that we genuinely prefer peaceful solutions. Warfare is wasteful and destructive, even when the outcome is certain. The implied threat was clear without being explicitly stated. The humans had demonstrated capabilities so far beyond anything the Zelothy possessed that resistance would be futile. Yet something about Captain Chen's manner suggested that she was not making empty boasts. Sir, the sensor operator called out, I'm detecting additional energy signatures from the human fleet. All vessels appear to be powering up additional systems. Vexstar studied the tactical display. The 7 human ships were indeed activating more equipment, but the power readings made no sense. Some vessels were showing energy outputs that should have required fusion reactors the size of their entire hulls. Captain Chen, what are your ships doing? Admiral, we thought you might appreciate a demonstration of our full capabilities before you make your final decision. My tactical officer informs me that your fleet has impressive defensive systems. We'd like to show you how they compare to human offensive capabilities. A chill ran through Vexstar's exoskeleton. You're threatening to attack our fleet? Not attack, demonstrate. There's a significant difference. Captain Chen consulted something off-screen, then looked back at him. We're going to target your flagship with a full-scale assault. Multiple weapon systems, maximum power output. Your ship will have every opportunity to defend itself using whatever systems you consider most effective. Commander Yexball stood abruptly from his station. Sir, recommend we open fire immediately. If they're planning to attack the Dominion's fist, we should strike first. Vexstar considered this, but something about the situation felt wrong. The humans had demonstrated impossible defensive capabilities and a weapon that could erase matter from existence. If they wanted to destroy his flagship, they probably could have done so already. Captain Chen, explain to me why I should allow you to fire on my ship. Because, Admiral, we want you to understand exactly what you would be facing if you chose to contest our presence in this sector. Right now, you're operating under incomplete information. A military leader of your experience deserves to know the full scope of the forces involved before making strategic decisions. It was a reasonable argument, but Vexstar found himself struggling with the implications. No enemy had ever offered to demonstrate their capabilities against his flagship. The Dominion's fist was not just another ship, it was the pride of the Zelithy fleet, protected by the most advanced defensive systems in known space. Sir, the defensive systems operator spoke up, all shields are at maximum strength. Adaptive armor is fully charged. If they want to test themselves against our defenses, we can show them the futility of attacking a Zelithy dreadnought. Vexstar made his decision. Very well, Captain Chen. But, understand that the Dominion's fist is not some defenseless merchant vessel. We will defend ourselves with full power. Understood, Admiral. We wouldn't expect anything less. The communication screen switched back to tactical display, showing both fleets in detail. The 7 human ships had arranged themselves in a formation that Vexstar didn't recognize, not a standard attack pattern from any known military doctrine. Their energy signatures continued to climb beyond anything that should have been possible. Sir, human energy readings are now exceeding our ability to measure them accurately, reported the sensor operator. Whatever power source they're using, it's beyond our understanding. Vexstar ordered all defensive systems to full power. The Dominion's fist was surrounded by overlapping energy shields capable of absorbing the combined firepower of an entire battle fleet. Its adaptive armor could restructure itself at the molecular level to counter specific weapon types. Point defense systems stood ready to intercept incoming projectiles with pinpoint accuracy. All stations report ready, sir, Commander Yexval announced. If the humans want to test our defenses, they're about to learn why the Dominion's fist has never been defeated in battle. The human ships fired. The first thing Vexstar noticed was the silence. Unlike Zelithy weapons, which filled space with brilliant energy displays and thunderous vibrations transmitted through the ship's hull, the human attack produced no visible effects. There were no beams of light, no projectiles streaking across space, no energy signatures that his sensors could detect. The second thing he noticed was that his shields were gone. Report, he shouted as alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Sir, all defensive systems are offline, the defensive systems operator called out in panic. Shields, armor, point defense arrays, everything just shut down simultaneously. Impossible. Run a diagnostic on all systems. Sir, diagnostics show that our defensive systems are undamaged and fully powered. They're just not working. It's as if they've forgotten how to function. Vexstar stared at his status displays in disbelief. Every indicator showed that the ship's defensive systems were operating normally, but somehow they were providing no protection at all. It was as if reality itself had decided that Zelithy defensive technology simply didn't work. Sir, detecting massive hull breaches throughout the ship, the damage control officer reported. But there's no actual damage. The hull integrity is perfect, but our sensors insist that we're venting atmosphere and taking critical damage. Commander Yexval looked up from his console with confusion evident in his voice. Sir, I'm showing complete system failures across all decks, but the backup sensors indicate that everything is functioning perfectly. How is this possible? Before Vexstar could respond, Captain Chen's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, our attack is complete. Your flagship has been neutralized. Neutralized? Our ship is undamaged. Is it? Admiral, please check your main propulsion systems. Vexstar ordered the engineering report. A moment later, the chief engineer's voice crackled over the internal communication system. Sir, the engines won't respond. All indicators show green, but when I try to engage propulsion, nothing happens. It's like the ship has forgotten how to move. Check weapons systems, Vexstar ordered. The tactical officer worked frantically at his console. Sir, weapons are showing ready status, but they won't fire. When I activate the plasma lances, the system acknowledges the command but nothing happens. Captain Chen continued her explanation. Admiral, your ship is now completely helpless. You cannot move, you cannot fight, and you cannot defend yourself. Yet as you can see, we caused no actual damage to your vessel or crew. This is what we call a non-lethal neutralization. Your ship still exists, your crew is unharmed, but your ability to function as a military vessel has been completely removed. Vexstar felt his legs give out, and he collapsed into his command chair. In 60 years of military service, through dozens of battles and countless tactical scenarios, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans had not just defeated his flagship, they had made it irrelevant. How? He whispered. Reality manipulation, as I mentioned earlier. We convinced the universe that your defensive systems don't work, your weapons don't function, and your engines can't operate. From the universe's perspective, the Dominion's fist is now just a very large piece of debris floating in space. Commander Yexval looked up from his station with dawning horror. Sir, if they can do this to us, they can do it to the entire fleet. As if in response to his words, tactical displays throughout the ship began showing similar status reports from every vessel in the Zelethi battle group. One by one, 43 of the most advanced warships in known space were reporting complete systems failures with no apparent damage. Admiral, Captain Chen said gently, I want you to understand that this demonstration was not meant as an insult or a show of dominance. We simply wanted you to comprehend the reality of the situation before asking you to make decisions that could affect both our species. Vexstar stared at the tactical display showing his entire fleet rendered powerless by an enemy that had never fired a visible shot. The implications were staggering. If humanity possessed this level of technological advancement, they could neutralize any threat in the galaxy without breaking a sweat. Captain Chen, he said slowly, what exactly is humanity's position in galactic affairs? We're newcomers, Admiral. Most species haven't even heard of us yet. But we've been watching and learning for quite some time. We know about the various empires, the trade networks, the political alliances. We've been waiting for the right time to announce our presence. And, now we're ready to take our place in galactic civilization. As equals, not as conquerors. We have no interest in destroying existing power structures or displacing established species. We simply want recognition of our right to exist and expand like any other sentient race. Vexstar found himself reconsidering everything he thought he knew about galactic politics. If humanity possessed this level of technology, they could easily conquer any empire they chose. The fact that they were offering to negotiate suggested either remarkable restraint or a level of confidence so complete that they saw no need for conquest. Captain Chen, I need to ask you a direct question. Could humanity defeat the Zelethi Empire in open warfare? Chen paused for a moment, as if considering how honest to be. Admiral, we could neutralize every Zelethi ship in the galaxy in a matter of days. But that's not what we want. War is destructive and wasteful. We'd rather have the Zelethi as allies than as conquered subjects. And the other galactic powers? The Krex Federation? The Altarian hegemony? The same applies to all of them. Humanity has no interest in galactic conquest. We want to be part of the community, not rulers of it. Vexstar realized that he was faced with a choice that would affect not just his career, but the future of his entire species. He could refuse the human terms and face certain defeat, or he could accept their offer of partnership and help his empire adapt to a new galactic order. Captain Chen, I believe we need to have a much longer conversation about the future. 3 hours later, Admiral Vexstar found himself aboard the human vessel Meridian, the same ship that had effortlessly absorbed the full power of Zelethi plasma lances. The experience of being transported by human technology had been unlike anything in his experience. One moment he had been standing on the bridge of his disabled flagship, the next he was materializing in what the humans called their diplomatic reception bay. The interior of the human ship was as surprising as everything else about them. Where Zelethi vessels featured ornate decorations and displays of wealth and power, the human ship was functional and efficient. Clean lines, practical design, and technology seamlessly integrated into every surface. Yet there was something unmistakably sophisticated about it, as if the humans had mastered their engineering so completely that they no longer needed to show off. Captain Chen had greeted him personally, along with what she introduced as her diplomatic team, 3 other humans who seemed to possess an unsettling combination of military bearing and academic knowledge. They had escorted him to a comfortable meeting room where the artificial gravity felt exactly like Zelithy standard, and the atmosphere had been adjusted to perfect specifications for his species. "Admiral," Captain Chen said as they settled around a simple but elegant table, "I want to begin by ensuring that you understand humanity." 6 months after the first contact incident, Admiral Vextar stood in the newly constructed Terran Zelithy Joint Command Center, watching as his species' most advanced scientists worked alongside human researchers to solve problems that had puzzled the Empire for generations. The facility itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, combining Zelithy architectural aesthetics with human technological innovation in ways that neither species could have achieved alone. The transformation had been remarkable. Within weeks of Vextar's report reaching Zelithy High Command, emergency sessions had been called throughout the Empire. The initial reaction had been predictable: disbelief, outrage, and calls for military retaliation against the audacious humans who dared challenge Zelithy supremacy. Everything changed when Captain Chen's diplomatic team arrived on the Zelithy homeworld. They had come in response to an official invitation, traveling in a single small vessel that materialized in orbit without triggering any of the planet's defensive systems. The ship had simply appeared, as if it had always been there, demonstrating once again that human technology operated by rules that other species barely understood. The humans had brought gifts. Not weapons or territorial concessions, but something far more valuable: solutions to problems that had plagued Zelithy civilization for centuries. Medical technologies that could repair genetic damage accumulated over generations of exposure to exotic radiation. Manufacturing processes that could create materials with properties that violated previously understood physical laws. Energy generation systems that drew power from the fundamental structure of spacetime itself. Most importantly, they had brought knowledge. "Fascinating," Dr. Zex Kara, the Empire's leading theoretical physicist, said as she reviewed the latest data from their joint research project. "The humans' understanding of dimensional mechanics is completely revolutionary. They're not manipulating reality, they're working with aspects of reality that we never knew existed." Vextar nodded, though he still found much of the human science incomprehensible. His role had evolved from military commander to diplomatic liaison, helping to facilitate cooperation between species with radically different approaches to problem solving. "Any progress on the Stellar Collapse Prediction Project?" he asked. Dr. Zex Kara gestured to a holographic display showing a complex 3-dimensional model of gravitational forces. "The human team has identified 17 star systems in Zelithy space that will experience catastrophic instability within the next 1,000 years. With their technology, we can actually stabilize them by adjusting fundamental constants in localized space." The implications were staggering. The humans weren't just offering to help solve problems, they were providing capabilities that amounted to cosmic engineering on an unprecedented scale. "Admiral," a voice called from across the command center. Vextar turned to see Commander Yexval approaching, his scale showing the bright blue coloration that indicated excitement. His old subordinate had adapted to the new reality with surprising enthusiasm, becoming one of the most effective coordinators in the joint program. "What have you discovered now?" Vextar asked. "The economic projections are beyond anything we imagined. The trade partnerships that Dr. Patel proposed have already increased Zelithy gross productivity by 60%. But that's not the remarkable part." Yexval activated a portable display showing economic data from across the galaxy. "Sir, the humans have made similar partnership offers to 15 other major powers. The Krex Federation accepted 3 months ago. The Alterian hegemony signed agreements 2 weeks ago. Even the notoriously isolationist Vorthan Collective has entered preliminary negotiations." Vextar studied the data with growing amazement. "They're transforming the entire galactic economy. More than that, sir. They're eliminating the economic drivers of conflict. When every species has access to unlimited energy and matter manipulation technology, territorial disputes become meaningless. Why fight over resources when you can create whatever you need?" It was true. The ancient patterns of galactic politics were rapidly becoming obsolete. Wars had traditionally been fought over control of rare materials, strategic locations, or limited energy sources. When any species could manipulate matter at the atomic level and tap into unlimited power, those conflicts lost their foundation. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. Captain Shen's image appeared on the main display, broadcasting from the bridge of humanity's newest vessel, a massive diplomatic ship that served as a mobile embassy for their expanding network of partnerships. Admiral Vexstar, I hope your morning has been productive, Shen said with the warm smile that had become familiar to the Zelathi leadership. Extremely productive, Captain. The stellar engineering project is proceeding ahead of schedule, and our economic integration continues to exceed all projections. Excellent. I'm calling because we've reached a significant milestone. The Galactic Council has formally recognized humanity as a major power and invited us to take a permanent seat on the governing board. This was indeed significant news. The Galactic Council had been dominated by the same 5 species for over a millennium. The addition of humanity would fundamentally alter the balance of power in galactic politics. Congratulations, Vexstar said. I assume you accepted? Captain Shen's expression became more serious. We accepted on one condition. We've proposed a complete restructuring of the Council's charter to emphasize cooperation and mutual advancement rather than territorial control and resource allocation. Commander Yexbal leaned forward. What kind of restructuring? Dr. Martinez appeared next to Captain Shen on the screen. We've suggested establishing joint research initiatives to address galactic-scale challenges. Climate engineering for worlds affected by stellar variations. Coordinated exploration of the galactic edge. And preparation for potential extragalactic threats. Vexstar felt his mandibles click with anticipation. Have you learned more about those extragalactic entities? Captain Shen nodded. Our long-range surveys have confirmed that they're artificial constructs, possibly automated systems left behind by a civilization that transcended physical existence. They appear to be harvesting energy from entire star systems as they advance toward our galaxy. The implications sent a chill through Vexstar's exoskeleton. An enemy that could drain entire solar systems would be beyond the capacity of any single species to resist, no matter how advanced their technology. How long do we have? He asked. Dr. Martinez consulted his displays. Approximately 3,000 years before they reach the galactic edge. But that assumes their current rate of advancement. If they accelerate, it could be much sooner. 3,000 years, Yexval mused. That seems like a long time for preparation. Captain Shen shook her head. Commander, for the kind of preparation we'll need, 3,000 years might not be enough. We're talking about coordinating dozens of species, integrating completely different technological approaches, and developing defenses against threats we don't yet understand. Dr. Martinez added, this is why humanity has been so focused on establishing partnerships rather than pursuing conquest. We need allies, not subjects. We need the combined knowledge and capabilities of every advanced species in the galaxy. Vexstar began to understand the true scope of humanity's vision. They weren't just offering technological advancement and economic prosperity. They were preparing the entire galactic community for a threat that could end civilization itself. What role do you envision for the Zelathi Empire in this preparation? He asked. A central one, Captain Shen replied immediately. Zelathi military doctrine and strategic thinking will be essential for coordinating defensive operations across multiple sectors. Your species has a talent for large-scale organization that will be invaluable. The Admiral felt a surge of pride, followed by a sobering realization of the responsibility being placed on his people. The Zelathi had always seen themselves as a dominant military power, but now they were being asked to help defend not just their own territory, but the entire galaxy. Dr. Zexkara approached from across the command center, her scale showing the silver coloration that indicated deep concentration. Admiral, I've been reviewing the human projections for our defensive preparations. The technologies they're proposing, they would advance our capabilities beyond anything we currently understand. What kind of technologies? Vexstar asked. Dimensional shielding that could protect entire star systems. Weapons that operate by convincing hostile forces that they never existed. Communication systems that function instantaneously across galactic distances. And, most importantly, computational systems powerful enough to coordinate the defense of billions of worlds simultaneously. Captain Shen smiled on the screen. Dr. Zexkara has been one of our most enthusiastic partners. Her insights into multidimensional physics have helped us develop several new defensive concepts. The Zelathi scientist's scale shifted to bright gold, indicating pleasure at the recognition. Captain Chen, working with human researchers has been the most rewarding experience of my career. The things we're discovering together, they're reshaping our understanding of the universe itself. Vexstar realized that this was perhaps the most significant aspect of humanity's approach. They weren't just sharing their technology, they were teaching other species to think in entirely new ways. The partnerships weren't creating dependency, but rather elevating everyone involved to higher levels of capability. Admiral, Captain Chen said, there's one more thing I wanted to discuss with you. The Galactic Council has approved our proposal for a joint exploration mission to the galactic edge. We want to establish observation posts and early warning systems to monitor the approaching entities. And, you want Zealothy participation? We want Zealothy leadership. This will be the largest coordinated military operation in galactic history. Your species has more experience with large-scale strategic planning than any other. Commander Yexbal stood straighter, his scales shifting to the deep red that indicated military pride. Admiral, we would be honored to accept such a responsibility. Vexstar found himself nodding in agreement. 6 months ago, he had been prepared to fight humanity to maintain Zealothy dominance. Now, he was being offered the opportunity to lead a coalition of species in the greatest defensive operation ever attempted. Captain Chen, he said formally, the Zealothy Empire accepts the honor and responsibility of leading the Galactic Edge exploration mission. Excellent. Admiral, I believe this marks the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. For the first time, all the major powers will be working toward a common goal. As the communication ended, Vexstar stood in the Joint Command Center, surrounded by representatives of multiple species working together on projects that would have been impossible for any of them to accomplish alone. The galaxy was transforming before his eyes, evolving from a collection of competing empires into something unprecedented, a truly unified civilization. The humans had achieved something remarkable. They had taken their overwhelming technological superiority and used it not to conquer, but to elevate everyone around them. In doing so, they had created something far more powerful than any empire, a voluntary alliance of species committed to mutual advancement and collective defense. Looking out through the command center's transparent walls at the stars beyond, Vexstar found himself thinking about the challenges that lay ahead. 3,000 years to prepare for an unknowable threat. Countless species to coordinate and organize. Technologies to develop that would push the boundaries of what was considered possible. It was the greatest challenge in galactic history, but, for the first time in his life, Vexstar felt genuinely optimistic about the future. Humanity had shown them a better way forward, and the entire galaxy was responding with hope and determination. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation had begun.